we go. Oh, that's too much.
Okay.
All right, looks like everything's working, Larry. So
Yeah,
I
I
will officially call the meeting of the Board of Trustees, the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Irvington for Monday, February 7th, 2022 to order. And we'll start with the announcements of checks over $25,000. We had one, which was in the amount of $211,733.62. The vendor was Bradhurst Site Construction, and it was related to Harriman Road Ida storm damage repairs, and it came from general funds, which we had submitted to FEMA. So hopefully that will be reimbursed. Anybody else have any announcements for tonight? Otherwise, I didn't really have anything. It's it's a weird time. We're wishing everyone a happy Valentine's Day. Seems weird. I guess we have another meeting before then anyway. Maybe not.
No.
No, it's next Monday. So happy Valentine's Day, everyone. So I'll just move right on to correspondence, which we have 3 pieces of correspondence. The first one is from Brody Castellana. Brody is requesting a skate park on behalf of himself and his friends to give them something to do in town and a safe place to ride their skateboards. I have forwarded his letter to Joe Archino, who's the head of the Recreation and Parks Department, who will be considering the request for a skate park. I think it's something we've looked at before, but Joe and RPAC will be happy to consider that request. Next up, we had a letter from Peter Bernstein, which was related to affordable housing and basically asking the village to actively pursue the development of affordable housing by looking at sites around the village that would potentially be a good fit. I think that's a very good idea. And who's currently liaison to the housing committee? Larry, maybe at the next meeting that they have, maybe they can, see if they'd be willing to do a inventory of kind of quasi public lands in the village and public lands in the village.
Deb was included on Peter's letter, and
Okay,
Deb
great.
responded, and Deb has responded to Peter that they have interest. There's a housing committee meeting scheduled, I believe, next week.
Great. And then the last piece of correspondence from Sarah Cox and Commemorate, which was basically an update on the piece of art that's going to be on Main Street, and a request for some funding. So I might actually read this one since it has a specific request that I think we should probably figure out what we want to do with. Our Commemorate Committee is very pleased to report that Vinnie Bagwell's public art is now in the mold making process. This is the stage before the bronze making process. Below is a picture of Vinnie putting the finishing touches on yesterday, which is the title of the piece of art. We have contracted with Tom Bucci of Bucci Excavating to dig the hole and pour the foundation in preparation for the installation of the sculpture. His cost is $3,500. We're working with Carol Stein and Gary Knowles of the Irvington Union Free School District to plan a date for this excavation work to be sometime in May. Our Commemorate Committee has raised the vast majority of the funding for this art fabrication through individual community member donations. We've also secured sizable grants from several groups such as Arts Westchester, Westchester County, International Ladies Garment Workers, Eileen Fisher, and Historic Hudson Valley. I'd like to ask the village board to consider paying $3,500 to Tom Bucci for the excavation and foundation work for the project. The Commemorate Committee and the Irvington Union Free School District and the Board of Education will be happy to invite the village board of trustees to a groundbreaking ceremony which is scheduled for sometime in May. The unveiling of the sculpture will occur during the Irvington Juneteenth celebration on Saturday, June 18th from 2 to 6 p.m. at the Main Street School. Festivities will include a gospel choir, a storyteller, tradition, African trickster tales, and African singers, drummers, and dancers. Thank you for your consideration. I kind of had 2 thoughts, so I'll lead off. I think I think it is appropriate for us to contribute towards the monument on Main Street, and I also up to the amount of $3,500 is fine with me. But I also thought maybe we could talk to Tom Bucci about potentially donating some of his time and or materials. So it's kind of a, we'll cover the cost will basically be covered, whether it's by the village and or by Tom Bucci himself or his firm. So, I have no problems with this. I don't know if anybody else had thoughts they wanted to share, but, to get this project finally done, I think it's definitely worth $3,500. And I also thought it was worth asking Tom Bucci if he was willing to donate some time, since it's not a typical commercial project. So, but either way, covered the cost of this. Larry Lonke, you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, Larry Schofer, I know I had reached out to you to sort of give an update or get an update or give us an idea of an update on the other project, on the project that the village really has undertaken as a village project and not sort of as a bystander and helper, on Main Street, but on the Buckout Street project. And is there any update on that? And also just roughly, I think I reached out to you as well. I'm not talking about the rehabilitation of the brook, which I know is a major project that hopefully we can get, outside funding for, but for the actual memorial area itself, if you had an idea of what that cost might be.
Right. Yeah. So, that project, as you know, the site area was compromised during Hurricane Ida, the flooding and the rushing waters over that site. We have done some engineering on that. I think it's safe to say that we're not, it's probably not the best thing to put the wall back in the exact same spot where it is. We think that there needs to be some widening of the channel there to alleviate future flooding is really the issue. Otherwise, we're going to be in the same position again in the future, and it'll potentially destroy a brand new monument area. So we're trying to work. The process isn't as straightforward as a normal FEMA process where you just restore what was there. Since we're trying to restore to something somewhat different than what was there, there's a kind of a mitigation process and some back and forth with FEMA on that. So it's going to be a bit of time before we know exactly what the solution is, which feeds into knowing exactly how much land we're going to have to use. What's going to be available to us. It's going to be different than what's there potentially. So all of that is what's put us on hold, which I think we had talked about before. So that's not too much of an update. Look, from a cost standpoint, again, without really knowing the size of the real estate that we're dealing with, and what the exact design is, because we never started working on a design, it's hard to say, but I think it's safe to say it's probably at least $100,000 project there in terms of the monument area itself. We're not talking about restoration or any of the damage being restored, but just the actual build out. But, there's no commitments either way. You control what gets done there, how much is spent, what gets designed. I mean, in consultation with the community that you had a committee formed.
Right.
So that's really where we're at. It's not much of an update. I don't want you to think that, well, since the wall was patched just to try to stabilize everything, that somehow the site is ready to be used. It's not.
Right. I guess my point there was really just to get an idea of that's something that the village has taken on and has, and the board will have the obligation, again, as to the extent of the monument and the expenses. But, looking at that as a rough idea, $3,500 to offer, and again, to try to get Tom Bucci to perhaps discount that a bit more. I generally have no problem with that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I think one of the things that is interesting about them, and I'm a member of Commemorate, so I just want to say that, but is that what's really nice about what's happened with the funds that have been raised for the monument is that the local businesses have contributed money, and over 200 residents in Irvington have contributed money. So, and the district has allowed the use of the land. So I just think that, a contribution from the village itself, I think would really round out kind of like the community nature of the project. So I definitely would be in favor of that. And I think, Brian, your idea is a really good idea. I think that's a good, addition to that, what was being asked for.
So I'm assuming that we're getting, kind of a sense of the board here. What we'll do is, and since the mayor introduced the idea of a possible, contribution or whatever, we'll kind of flesh that all out and then come back with a budget modification is really how that would be enacted. We just don't know the number yet, so we'll work on that. But if we're getting the sense of the board here that you want to go ahead and contribute, we'll work on that.
Yeah, I was going to say that I support this. To me, from my personal point of view, what I like about this is I know it's on the school property, and it's great that they're giving that. But what I like is it's a big open space where we already have one statue there that commemorates something obviously much less important, but still, with the Rip Van Winkle. And now to add this would be appropriate. And in the future there could be other things that get added there as well. And I think that these kind of projects, like obviously this monument to the enslaved people who were in Irvington, I fully support. For the board to put up a very small amount of money to help make this happen, I think is entirely appropriate. It's a project we should be supporting.
Great. Okay. So I think that's pretty clear there. Next up, we'll go to public comment. If anyone would like to.
Brian, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Is that something we need to vote on or not?
So I know there's a lot of different ways things could have gone. You could do a budget modification right now for exactly $3,500 and you would vote on it and it would be done. I'm just suggesting that now that I understand where the board wants to go with this, we need to work out the details of exactly what the number is going to be since Brian made a suggestion as part of this. So we'll work on that part of it and then come back with what the actual budget modification is. Right. But I know it's up to 3,500. I know that's where you're going with it. All right.
Agreed. Looks like Peter Bernstein has his hand up.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
You can. How are you?
Good, good. Nice to see you all. Quickly, just on the thing you just discussing, thanks for agreeing to chip in on that project. I think that's really great because if you recall, we had originally hoped that the statue would be on village property and the village would get credit for being part of it. And Larry, as you said, the village is doing the other important site there. But this way, by contributing a little bit to the Main Street, it becomes, that the village is part of that too and values that too. So if, the way it stands on school property without the village having contributed anything, which, mostly we didn't need because we were able to raise most of the funds that, ourselves, this is nice to have the village in partnership with this aspect of the commemoration. So that's just, a note. But the reason why I raised my hand was just to follow up a little bit on the affordable housing deal and recommend that Brian, either you or Larry speak to this Croton trustee Len Simon. I don't know if you guys have met him, but really interesting guy. For many, many years, he was like the #2 guy in the National Association of Mayors working out of Washington. So super sophisticated guy, super, they're doing a great job on this affordable housing project on village-owned property in Croton, where they've got a developer who's apparently figured out a way to make about 30 apartments fully affordable. The whole deal. Clearly when because Croton owns the land, they were able to really negotiate with developers and get what they wanted on that land. So I just wanted to encourage you guys to reach out to Trustee Len Simon and/or Brian Pugh to talk about this particular project and how it came to pass. It might help in the efforts that you guys are hope to make on affordable housing in Irvington. So thanks for your work on that. And that's my comment.
And thanks for the email. I've talked to Brian Pugh before, not directly about this project, but kind of in general about some of the things he's worked on. So I could reach out to him again. Larry Lonke, when did you say that the housing committee meeting was?
I believe it is a week from Thursday
Okay.
or a week from Wednesday. No, the board session is Wednesday. I think it's Thursday, a week
Okay.
from Thursday. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the audience at this time? Otherwise, I'll move to the consent agenda. If anybody has any questions on that. Otherwise, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda if I can get a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Next, we have, I see Chief Pignatelli in the audience. We have the budget workshop for the police department. Brenda and Larry, of course. And
Bringing the chief onto the panel there.
excellent.
Okay. Evening, chief.
Hello, everybody.
How are you?
Hi, Chief.
Doing well, you?
Good, thank you.
All right. So Brenda, do you want to get started? And if you want, you tell me when you want anything displayed.
I think, well, I worked with Chief Pignatelli on his budget items, and some of the, much of it is also, required because they're contractual obligations. But what we've done is we've entered them into the program, and we have a spreadsheet or kind of a summary of what the changes are. A lot of them were included in that budget overview that I gave. So many are in there. I think we had a few changes in addition to maybe about $15,000, but otherwise they're already reflected in those budget numbers I previously went over. So I will ask the chief to maybe go over the line items to address some of the background on each of them. If you want to follow along here, or you can also follow along for the board members to the budget, either way, or here.
All right, I'll just start at the top of the list here. Salary increases with the recent contract ratification. This is just showing what increases we are is due based on the contract. Same with the overtime. It just reflects the percentage increase from the contract. There's no change in crossing guards as far as hours or amount of crossings. That's number is probably just reflective of the current salary.
Mm-hmm.
Brenda noted a decrease in longevity and unused sick because we have a force that has less longevity with some of the recent retirements and the new hires coming on. There's going to be a little bit less in longevity. Under equipment, what you see right there is for a $8,000 increase. That's mostly due to replacement of our AED defibrillators. Right now, ours are about 7 years old. Industry standard says between 5 and 8 years to replace them. So we have a total of 6 AEDs that we use. So that would be the cost of replacing all 6 with a little bit of a credit once we trade our old ones in. Also under equipment is a replacement of our voice recorder system. Our current voice recording system is close to 10 years old and it's been malfunctioning quite a bit. Industry standard for that is around 8 years. So that's the number to replace the whole system. What that system does is it records all of our radio transmissions, phone calls, and 911. So we use that a lot for evidence in discovery cases and as well as for other reasons. A decrease in detective support services is just elimination of a program that we never signed on for. That was in there, so we took that out. I'm requesting under supplies that number there for community events such as Coffee with a Cop, Cones with a Cop, and other community events that we might want to host throughout the year. And under office supplies, there's a number there. It says purchase of business cards. That's not only for the business cards for officers to hand out during patrol, but it's also informational cards that we make throughout the year for various topics. Last one was for the idling law, We made some posters and business cards and handed them out up on the North Broadway area to try to educate people about the Westchester County idling law. So that money would be used for various events like that throughout the year. Under travel and education, that's a contractual change in the payment for the education benefit for the officers. Office equipment, a new copier. Our old copier broke. We had to lease a new copier this year. And below that, repairs and maintenance. One of our biggest changes is with the body camera. Our yearly maintenance contract for that comes in close to $37,000. So that's the largest increase that we have that we didn't have in previous years. And that's for all the licensing, the storage, warranties, replacement equipment after a certain amount of time. And that's where that number comes from. Also under information technology, there's a number there to replace 4 computers as part of our a new replacement plan based on the recommendation of our computer services. We have approximately 20 computers here at headquarters, and instead of replacing them all at the same time, their recommendation is that we replace about 4 computers per year, so that a 5-year cycle will have all new computers and we'll start over, because that's a little bit better and easier to do than replacing all 20 machines at the same time. And it allows us to budget for each year moving forward. Unfortunately, I think most of you already know that the state took our police boat away to reallocate to another jurisdiction. So we no longer need the line budget in there for the police boat. So that was taken out. New officer uniforms just increased because of the equipment cost to outfit a new officer between the academy and to put them on the road. The parking enforcement, we switched over from last year to the 5 days a week, which is that number. And then just some supplies and uniforms for tickets and some uniform equipment for the parking enforcement officer at the bottom. And that's basically the summary of the changes for the budget for this year.
And Brenda, the salary number is pretty low. I mean, $22,000 on a $3 million department. So
Correct.
$4 million. So, but that reflects some retirements and lower salaries coming in.
Absolutely, yes. Ordinarily, an increase like the police contract requires would be a lot more. It would be, 3% as Larry had indicated, of not quite like a $3 million line. It was offset by retirements and replacement with lower paid starting salaries. One will be a transfer in. It also includes any step increases. So it's all inclusive of what we need, but considerably yet less than what it would have been without 3 retirements, actually. So it's 3 replacements at lower salaries.
I guess the one question I have is this: if you just go over the parking enforcement change again, it looks like having a full-time parking enforcement officer is going to be $3,000 less in total than having.
What it is that we budget to put a full-time position in, but it was reflected in the part-time line because the previous job was part-time, so we just added to that during the public hearing at that time. So it was increased to reflect 5 days a week. I think that was one of the items we discussed back and forth during the public hearings. So it was 53 and the hire was at 50,000 for that employee for the new hire. So it's being reflected in the full-time line.
Okay, but we had budgeted 53. And we ended up hiring someone for 50,000. So
right.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's somewhat of a bookkeeping entry, but in the end of the day, it is $3,000 less than we had originally budgeted.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
I guess my general comment would be that over 70% of this budget is either contractual increases or the agreed upon body camera maintenance, which we knew. So I think this is a pretty reasonable looking budget given those facts.
And when you
Yeah, I
look at the
thought-
budget in total, not just the changes here, but when you look at the entire budget, you're probably talking about a budget that's made up of about 75 or 80% salaries and benefits. So, the discretion or the decisions are not really made in a workshop setting like this. They're really high level personnel decisions. You either need to, cut positions, add positions. You know what I mean? That you don't affect the budget without making higher level decisions. You're not going to affect the budget by making a decision on office supplies. You know what I mean? So anyway, but that's the structure of this particular department.
Yeah, I have one question, Frank. For the business cards, is that in connection with the recommendations made by the police review committee? Those kinds
Yeah,
of business.
part of that money would be used to buy the business cards for the officers to hand out during patrol, as well as informational cards and posters that we might purchase throughout the year for various topics.
Okay.
I mean, I think this is about as straightforward a budget as we could have. I mean, I think I'm disappointed about the police boat because I think that was a nice resource to have. But obviously that's beyond our control. So.
Larry, do you want to go to the next page? If you have that one up, that's the entire, because if you go to the bottom of that, you'll see, let me see.
On
my
this
screen.
page or bottom of all?
Yeah,
these?
I think the bottom corner, you can see the increase. If you look,
bottom.
everyone on the far right, you see the variance to the requested budget. So you see even the first one on the salaries, it's less than 1%. It's 0.71% increase over last year's requested budget. So while the increase in the contract was, I think was 2.5%, the impact to next year's budget because of the retirements is less than 1%, 0.71. Then you can see the percent increases line by line. There are higher increases if it's a lower budget, because if there's an increase on a lower budget, it has a bigger percent increase, effect. But if you go to then see some negatives, and if you go to the very end of the budget, you'll see the effect on the entire budget. So the entire budget is up 2.73%, I guess. We're talking about I have to move the people here. Okay. So you see it's an increase of total budget from 3.8. Here we go. Just the here we go, 3.896 to the 4,003,000. So, and as I said earlier, yeah, that it was really, most of this is included in the numbers that I gave earlier. So that was factored in.
I guess one of my other hopes is that, with some of the retirements and getting younger, that, we'll have less injuries and overtime from that type of thing. Need some luck too, but how is the overtime looking this year? Obviously, most of the overtime is, unanticipated. We obviously have some that is anticipated that we're typically reimbursed for, but how is the current year's overtime looking? And, is that a line that we need to consider increasing, or we think we've kind of gotten it to where it's reflective of true overtime costs?
I can say from my end, you can see here, year to date is over 600,000. The budget modification we just did, we did one to that line to reflect the reimbursement from Con Ed. So much of that is Con Ed. And after I do the modification, I increase the budget line, basically from the reimbursements, we're back to pretty much an even or a little bit under. So
our true overtime,
more, but it covers the amount of overtime that we're over budget from the original adopted budget.
so our true overtime from Irvington related events is pretty much reflected correctly in the budget, I guess is my question. looks like we'll probably have Con Ed again in town, but you know, to me, that's not really part of our budget because we're reimbursed for that. Obviously, it takes a toll on the officers and the officers' time, and you know, but you know, hopefully some of that's good for them, that they get some kind of easier duties potentially. But it looks like that number then, because it looks like the original budget was, you know, 330.
329, right.
Yeah.
329.
We also did have a little bit of an increase from 2020, 2021 in sick time usage, probably between injuries, as well as officers working a lot more hours with doing the side jobs and regular patrol. So there was an increase in sick time also that contributed to the overtime.
Right. Now, each time we receive a workers' comp reimbursement, it goes to offset the overtime line. I'll also point out there is some money in contingency for additional police overtime. I don't have that number in front of me. I want to say it's about 25,000 more in contingency. And just, you know, talking to Chief Pignatelli, you know, when you have the people we're hiring, many of them will not really be out on their own until sometime into the new fiscal year. So until then, you will have some overtime for those coverages and shifts.
Yeah.
So we haven't increased the budget to reflect that, but there'll be use of overtime there.
And that the super holiday pay, I assume, is the new Juneteenth pay? No, that's just the increase from the salary increases.
A super holiday pay is we budget in there for those officers that receive an extra amount for working on holidays like Christmas, day after I think Thanksgiving is one.
Just yeah, Thanksgiving and Christmas are
Yeah.
the two super holidays. The Juneteenth would be included in the holiday pay.
Holiday pay.
But we didn't increase it this year for that.
The holiday pay,
Yeah.
I have to take a look and double check.
Well, the amounts you're looking at here are not specifically increases.
Yeah, this is just a total. You're right.
These
Yeah.
are totals, but we
These are
will double
totals.
check. Yeah,
Double
we'll
check
double
that.
check to make sure.
I
Yeah.
don't- Let me just double check. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Let me double check that we
We have
have
some-
the
we have
extra
some time.
holiday. Mhm.
Yeah, no, we'll be sure of that.
Yep. So this is how we break it out. Yeah, as Larry pointed out, they're not necessarily increases. It's just breaking out. So when you see a $3,000 personnel line for police salaries, you know how it's, and this is how we budget, because we, you know, it's not just, so we have each salary of each police officer. We factor in the super holiday pay. We factor in for the anniversary dates of those offices that will have a step increase or a promotion. There is some out of title pay. That's an estimate. We don't know. Holiday pay is purely a function of the number of holidays and the salaries. So I will double check that we have the correct amount of holidays reflected.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian. Yep.
Sure. And Frank, there isn't any other equipment or training that you need to request at this time? You feel like you have everything you need to run a good department?
Yeah, at this moment, with some of that replacement equipment, I think we'll be okay. The additional money for training for police reform that's in there, I think will help us continue our police reform training that we've spoken about, as well as the slight increase for the training days for new officers that don't have plug-in days for their normal training. So I think we're in decent shape right now.
Great.
I guess I have a question. So if we were to, I think we talked a bit about continuing the police reform committee, and I know that originally that people sort of volunteered time, but I'm assuming officers would be paid, right? Like, I mean, I would think that people would be doing that on paid time. Or how are you thinking about that piece?
I mean, I don't know how the structure of the police council committee will be, or what it's going to involve. So it's hard to make a determination on who would be a member of that or part of that within the police department, and what their roles are going to be, and when they'd be working and what shift. So it's kind of hard to make a determination on that without having a little bit more information on how the community council is going to be structured and what it's going to entail.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have, for example, we have a traffic committee meeting coming up, and we scheduled it around the officer's time when he's on shift. So, there's no extra time incurred there, extra money incurred. So yeah, we have that flexibility, where we could have that flexibility, but it depends on how you structure it.
Right. We just have to be mindful. Okay. Important to, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Great. So, well, thanks for your first solo budget, Frank. I have to imagine this is your favorite part of the job, is going through the budget. So that's why most people got into police work, I think. So hopefully your lieutenants helped with this, but we appreciate you, keeping it tight, and we'd like to spend wisely. So if there are things that you need to do your job better, let us know. But we appreciate you, keeping total costs in mind as well. So thank you very much for presenting tonight.
No, thank you. And I just want to thank Brenda for all her help during the preparation as well.
You're very welcome. I think we've done a good job with the budget there and identifying all the costs for the things in the department, all the contracts and which ones are being used. So I think Frank really sharpened his pencil to go through and really, look at everything with fresh eyes with his first time through on a solo budget on the prep side.
Anybody else have any questions for Frank? We can always bring him back if we need to. So you just have a background at your house now, Frank, that looks like the office, or are you always there?
That's a good idea. I should probably do that.
Yeah, I think you
I'm
definitely
still
should.
here. It's a little quieter here than it is at home sometimes.
Well, that's all I have for now. We'll let you go if no one else has anything. And thanks to you and your team.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very
Good
much.
night.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks.
Next up is reports of boards, standing committees, and officers. Trustee liaison reports. I guess I'll do it on order that I see you on my screen, which is probably not how you see each other, but we'll start with Larry Lonke.
Okay, rec report. The CAB meets tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. with special guests, new trustees Burgos and Bard. They'll be this month's spotlight speakers, so I hope you've rehearsed. Congratulations to everyone involved in the ISTAB community discussion, including Brian, who gave a great introductory speech. If you have not had a chance if you did not have a chance to see the presentation, it is available on videotape and can be accessed on the village website, or you can contact Joe Archino. Very enlightening, lots of information, lots of positive information, and lots of challenges still ahead. Applications are available for summer positions for the 2022 summer day camp. We'll be hiring for counselors age 16 and up. Specialists, supervisors, teacher positions are also available. Dates for summer camp have been established. It will be from July 5th through August 5th, 9:15 a.m. to 1:30. Early bird online registration will start on April 1st. Teenscape off-season winter trip escape room for 6th through 8th graders. That trip is scheduled for Friday, March 18th. Registration begins Thursday, February 10th and through March 1st, or until the program is full. There are limited spots. Fees for residents are $60 and school district residents are $75. ISCAB is sponsoring the cost of transportation for the program. Register now for the following: Spring Youth Kickball starting April 21st, Lego workshops for K through 2nd grade starting March 15th, pre-K baseball clinic 4 years old on 12/31 starting April 26th, the Instructional Youth Baseball League for kindergarten and 1st grade starting in April running through mid-June. just a couple more. Irvington Rec Youth Program sponsorship. This is a year-long opportunity to sponsor with your name appearing on social media, village website, program promotions, and schedules. You'll be assigned a team during one of the sports seasons where your company name will appear. Forms being accepted now through February 25th for the spring season. For more information, contact Angela. The Irvington Woods Park invasive vine barberry bush removal program continues. It will resume as soon as weather allows. Contact CJ Riley for information. To register for any recreation and park department, go to, and there's a website, register.capturepoint.com. If you know of any senior citizen in need of help or support, please contact Joan Armstrong at 914-494-0214. And finally, there are still some spaces available in the following youth programs: ballet, exploring cooking, and yoga. Contact Maureen. Thanks.
Great. Why don't we go with Mark Gilliland, who's directly next to you on my screen.
Mark,
You're
you're
muted.
muted.
That should be okay now, right? So I have nothing new at the moment. I did want to ask Larry Schopfer if there was any further movement on the ARB single month meeting discussion. I haven't heard of any get together with Rick.
Yeah, no, we haven't done that. We haven't tackled it yet. It's going to be an interesting unwind process if that's what happens, but we need to devote some time to that.
Okay. Yeah, I just sorry to keep reminding, but I think it's, I don't want to see them all get burned out.
Yep.
Okay, Brian, I'm passing the baton.
Perfect. Okay. Mitch, I have you next. Should have Brenda next, but it's out of order. So.
All right. So the Board of Education, we had they were interested in knowing about how the Juneteenth and graduation were going to coexist. So it was very good to be able to report back to them that Joe Archino had thought about that, and Larry, and that's all been accounted for. So that was a positive. The school board had some announcements. Most of the bids have been awarded for the second phase of the capital bond project, and the remaining bids will be awarded in the coming month. The big topic right now that they're addressing along with schools across the state is the future of the mask requirements. They noted that yesterday, New Jersey announced that they're going to remove the school-based mask mandate in March, and Connecticut is supposed to make a similar announcement. In New York, the rumor they've heard is that the governor will make an announcement within the next week. So that's the big thing they're looking at. Other things that their surveillance testing over the past 2 weeks has identified no cases of the virus, so that's good. The district will be distributing test kits to families and staff next week. The district is increasing visitor attendance at concerts, drama performances, and sporting events. Winter recess is coming, and the district asks for cooperation in reporting positive cases. During break, there will again be a reporting tool on the website. So kindly report all positive cases and cases that will require one to quarantine based on their vaccination status using the form that's on the website and emailing the principals and the nurses involved. Also from the theater, a couple things. One is that they're happy to announce that the selections have been made for the Short Play Festival, and that's going to be a streaming event later on, so everyone should check that out. We had done that once before in person about 3-4 years ago, and I think Kim has really jump-started it and given it a lot of positive energy, so I think that's going to be a great event. And there's no update on the HVAC system yet because some plans have to be finalized before work can start. Theater manager Greg is scheduling meetings with different department heads so they can work all that out and then get the HVAC plans going. And I'm obviously looking forward to that as well. So that was the main stuff that I had from my liaisons.
And Arlene.
So I'm the storm reporter, but if the DPW and the water department had many storms to work through, many days of snow, and if you guys have been following, there have been quite a few water main breaks. I'm not sure the number actually. They did send me that number, but so they have been very busy with water main breaks, and also snow removal and the village-wide Christmas tree recycling, which hopefully by now in February is to a close. There's probably a few lingering trees out there. Okay, and then if just from the police department, if Frank wants everybody to, if I don't know if you guys saw the news and saw that, they arrested 2 men in Irvington for trying to scam a 77-year-old grandmother. And they just want us to just make an announcement to all of our seniors out there and other people that, if someone calls you asking for money, that, you should be suspicious, and any of those suspicious calls, they should feel free to contact the IPD right away. And, they'll work with them just to make sure to work through those, because there are quite a few scams that are floating around. Also, the Green Policy Task Force put together some recommendations for the board for the coming year. They are going to they're working on prioritizing them. And also to the extent that they might be budget items, just sort of getting costs on those items. And they're going to be looking to us to invite them to a work session to go through those recommendations.
Great. Okay, now we'll go to Village Administrator's report.
Okay, well, I guess I spilled the beans on the traffic committee meeting that's coming up. It's actually our first meeting in probably 2 years now. For a little while, we didn't have a traffic officer that was on the beat, and then the pandemic put us on hold as well. So it'll be good to get back with our new traffic officer, or newly assigned traffic officer, Officer Dunleavy, as well as the chief, to meet with that committee and let them know what's been going on. That is Wednesday afternoon. But sort of tangentially related, there's a meeting coming up towards the end of the month that both Brian and I have been invited to, and it's a meeting with the New York State Department of Transportation. They are getting back to each of the villages along the Route 9 corridor from basically Sleepy Hollow down to Hastings, because the mayors approached the Department of Transportation to in a united front to try to have the state address the Route 9 corridor project, the active transportation corridor study. And that's the potential for, bike lanes or, realigning the lanes of traffic throughout the villages. And our turn to meet with the Department of Transportation is later this month. So if any of the trustees on the board would like to jump on, it's a virtual meeting with them. If any of the trustees want to jump on that, it could only be one other trustee actually, but if anyone's interested in that, I'm happy to send you the information. So just let Brian or me know.
If no one else wants to do it, I'm happy to do it.
Okay, so that is
Mitch,
Thursday.
I think I volunteered you for that at some point anyway.
That's
Oh,
why
there
I
you
said it. I don't want to let you down, Larry. What's the date on that?
So yeah, so it's Thursday the 24th, and it's at 1 o'clock. And I'll obviously send you the details.
It's obviously by Zoom, right?
Yes, or WebEx or one of those. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you the details on that. Great. That's it.
Great. We'll go to the Village Clerk Treasurer's report.
I think we're good. Still working on budget with the other departments and getting ready for the next budget workshop, but nothing else new to report.
And Village Attorney's report.
I don't have a report.
And we shall return to public comment. And Larry, we can review action items if we have any. I don't really remember.
Just the last, well, of course, there was the holiday pay question from the budget, but that's,
Yeah.
we'll handle that. And then I know I need to follow up on the single meeting or 2 meeting scenario for the Architectural Review Board.
And send Mitch an invite.
And then sending Mitch the invite. Yep.
Okay. Very good. Looks like no one's raised their hand. So I will actually make a motion to have a brief advice of council session. Discuss an intermunicipal agreement. So we can adjourn this meeting, Larry.
Yeah. So you don't need to vote on that, but I think
Yep.
Brian wanted to meet with Mary Ann and the rest of the board. I sent a link separately so that you have that. So you have to log off of this meeting and jump onto that, follow that other link.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.